Do you want to know where to catch redfish and speckled trout, snook, and flounder this weekend in your area? Well, the great news is Smart Fishing Spots does it for you. If you haven't heard, we cracked the code on literally predicting where these fish will be every single weekend. In fact, every single day based on real-time trends, tides, weather, wind, etc. This is next level. This is the holy grail for inshore saltwater anglers. So now this Smart Fishing Spot software, based on whatever area you ask it to, and then it takes in all of the different data points that we have and literally shows you actual spots to fish. I'm going to repeat that. It literally shows you actual spots to fish, highlights them. You can actually take the coordinates down and then go fish those spots. And it changes every single week. Unlike those old maps that, have been the same spots for 40 plus years, this is literally changing every week based on all the data that is coming in. There's nothing like it, and this will change the way you fish and ultimately save you tons of time. The best news is it's completely free to all of our insider members. So members, get in there if you haven't seen this new feature yet. If you're not a member, what the heck are you waiting on? Someone to literally show you where to fish this weekend, because that's what we've done. Go to saltstrong.com, join the club, and you'll get unlimited access to Smart Fishing Spots. See you inside and enjoy the show.
It's fishing, it's in my soul.
Welcome to the Salt Strong Podcast, disrupting fishing entertainment as you know it. Prepare to laugh. Prepare to get to know fishing legends in a whole new and unfiltered way.
And on occasion, you might even learn a thing or two about fishing.
Here's your host, Joe Simons. Like diamonds.
Hello, Salt Strong Nation. Joe Simons, like diamonds. Got Luke Simons, like diamonds, talking about shrimp, like diamonds. We're talking about two different types of shrimp. Talking about artificial shrimp, like our Power Prawn, USA, Senior and Junior, and then live shrimp. There's been a lot of questions about when to use which one's best. And for those of you that saw one of our Facebook posts here last week, caught two really nice over slot snook using a Power Prawn in almost the middle of the day. It was 90 degrees out. Sun was high up, and this was the day after a full moon. And everyone's like, "Oh man, I can't believe you're doing that." And so we want to break down when a fake shrimp like a Power Prawn is going to actually beat, and we would prefer it over live shrimp, and vice versa. And so I want to start off, Luke, by talking about absolute beginners, because I think this is where I've seen some beginners end up getting really, really frustrated. Is they see what our coaches do and what a lot of our members do, and just the general public catching really nice redfish and speckled trout and snook and flounder on these artificial lures, and they think that's the only way to do it, and they try to do it, and they get skunked, because it's not just about the shrimp. It's, you got to rig it correctly. You have to have the right depth control. You even have to know how to position your boat or your kayak correctly. There's all these little variables that they don't understand yet, and they get really, really frustrated. And so I just want to start off by saying there is absolutely nothing wrong with using live shrimp or frozen shrimp, especially if you're a beginner. In fact, I would actually say do that first, to at least just get the feel of it and figuring out where the fish are, etc. Going to bridge pilings or docks. If I had kids with me, I would not be using a Power Prawn. With a 7-year-old, I would get some live frozen shrimp. So I assume you're nodding. You agree with that in terms of the beginners? Kind of want to start there and throw that out there.
Yeah, I agree with most of that. And a lot of it comes down to, first of all, what you're targeting. And like if you're going after just max quantity of fish, we're just trying to catch something. You don't care really what it is. Live shrimp is going to be it, because everything eats live shrimp, big and small. You can even catch like little tiny pinfish or snapper, and also a big fish as well. So you can have a little bit of everything. Where lures come into play, especially, first of all, you have to be a good caster, and you have to put some thought into rigging, right? Rig it right for the depth. But that, I guess, rigging depth control really is important with live and lures. But with lures, it just takes an extra level of, I would say, of thought and skill. And it's not a lot. It's not like you have to spend years doing it. It just takes a little bit of coaching and then going out and using it. So the core benefit of live shrimp is that it just, everything eats it, right? You go out there and just catch whatever. If there's any predator in the area and you soak it in front of their face, they're likely going to eat it. Whereas artificial lures, you have to actually make the lure work. Like here's one of our shrimp lures here, the Power Prawn USA. It looks great, right? It looks very, very close to a real shrimp that obviously was designed based on an actual shrimp. But you need to rig it properly. You just need to work it a little bit to give it the motion that a natural shrimp would have to trigger the strike. Once you do master this, it's game changing. Now you can actually cover water, because the core benefit of lures is that you can cover more water, right? You can cast this all day long and it's not going to fall off the hook. Where if you cast a live shrimp probably 3 times, especially if you cast it hard, it's gone. So lures help you cover more water. Live shrimp helps you just maximize the quantity of fish. I would say is the elevator, the overview, if you will.
Yep. So let's dive a little bit deeper into that. Let's start with the the pros and cons of these. You hit a couple of them. I'd also say that if I was targeting bigger fish, like we've done, in not all cases, but in some cases, going after trophy snook and redfish and even trout, flounder, that lures sometimes can be beneficial, because especially if you have a 4.5-inch prawn, you're not going to have the same issues you do with a live shrimp, meaning catfish and little pinfish and all, you've done some of those underwater videos and you see all the little things that they're the shrimp stealers, right? It's crazy how many shrimp you have to go through to catch a decent sized fish. And it can be really, really tough if you're trying to target big fish. And so, to back to Luke's point, using live shrimp, if you're just wanting to get a ton of numbers, and these could be a lot of smalls, could be a ton of catfish. Definitely have some de-hookers on the boat or kayak with you. Just be prepared to catch a bunch of kind of like little junk fish. Whereas when we fish with power prawns, I don't remember catching any catfish. Right. And
it happens every once in a while. It's just not even close to the amount of catfish and little small pinfish you get with live bait. Because I was doing some tests. I really wanted to get a sheep's head. I've done a lot of underwater filming and just watching fish eat baits, in most cases shrimp, because everything likes it. But I've been trying to get sheep's head, and so I'll put the camera down. I'll drop the shrimp right in front of it so you can actually see what happens. And it is shocking how fast the little bait stealers, in most cases, it's pinfish. Sometimes it's small mangrove snapper. But in most cases, especially if you drop in the same spot a couple times, it's literally like 20 seconds before that bait is just getting attacked by all that little junk stuff. In most cases, it'll knock it off the hook because those fish's mouths are so small, it's actually hard to hook them. So that's usually what happens. If you drop a live shrimp down and it's gone really quick, which happens a lot, especially if you're fishing docks or on reefs and areas with a lot of life, there's just a lot of little small fish down there that are super aggressive, and they will be on that. And again, in most cases, like under 20 seconds. And so there's really not a lot of time for that bigger predator to really hone in and get that meal. Conversely, if you're throwing a lure, right, those little junk fish will hit it, but they're not going to get hooked, right? This is a big hook. You can rig it weedless just to guarantee that none of them accidentally get snagged. And so those fish will be messing with it, but they can't get it. They're not going to ruin it. They're not going to knock it off the hook. And as you retrieve it, now this lure has a little trail of chum, if you will, like little pinfish and stuff that's following it. And that bigger fish will see the action, go in there and strike your lure. And so by far, the average fish size on lures like this is bigger than using live shrimp, is what I found. Fishing the same area, right? Fishing docks. I've been using these a lot on docks and bridges, and the average fish size is absolutely bigger with these lures compared to live shrimp, just because live shrimp just gets dominated by whatever sees it first. Whereas this will kind of weed through the small stuff, and the fact that it's realistic and has good action, as long as rigged and used properly, this thing is absolutely amazing. This is by far my most trusted lure now.
Yep, I agree. And then cake a little Dr. Juice saltwater slamson on there and kitty bar the doors. Woo! Yeah.
And it's and again, for many years I really wasn't a big fan of shrimp lures, and but I always knew that live shrimp obviously will catch everything. And the more I've been using, over the last couple of years, I've been testing a bunch of different lures, shrimp lures specifically. And it seems like the ones with all like the frills, or have a lot of those like super realistic shrimp that have like every leg and all the antenna, everything intact. It's like some are like works of art. the ones with the appendages seem to actually not do quite as well. It seems like it's the motion of the water, and in particular, the glide down. So this is a nice streamlined shrimp profile, and that most of the strikes happens after the bump. Then as it's gliding down, it looks just like a natural shrimp going back down to the bottom, and it just gets absolutely thumped. So I actually recommend against those lures with all the frills. Just get a nice streamlined shrimp lure and make sure to rig it properly, and it really is amazing how effective it is, and particularly for fooling the bigger fish.
Yeah, I haven't seen anything that works as well as the Power Prawn. And for those of you that have heard the story, I'll just kind of rehash it for everyone. But this guy Marcos was still one of our members, but he was fishing a lot down in South Florida, like Chokoloskee area, all the way down to Flamingo, and catching these mondo, like 40 plus inch snook, and even winning tournaments like against full-time guides who were using live bait, and all he was using was this fake shrimp. And we were like scratching our heads saying, there's no way, right? Just like a lot of you maybe who've never caught a big fish using a fake lure of any kind. Because we see those comments like in Facebook, no way you guys caught that on that. Of course, we all have billions of hours of video footage showing that lures catch all these fish. But there's still people who haven't done it and they can't conceive it yet. And so even we were skeptical of it. We're like, man, no way. And so we went down and spent 2 full days with him and heard the whole story about how they only use shrimp lures down in Brazil, where he's from. They have robalo down there, which is essentially the same thing as a snook. And we were blown away when we saw the results. So we fished with him for a day and a half, and blown away. We both caught mondo overslot, 40-inch snook using this same type of lure. And so we've now made some tweaks, things that we thought needed to improve upon, and now make them in the USA. And holy smokes. The testimonials on our Insider Club, it's every day. And we have some people that, are not in the club and just buying them. It's now become our number one selling lure, even more so than Slam Shady, in the same time frame as a release. And Slam Shady was just like this, as you know. And now the Slam Shady has been licensed to Z-Man, and it's in every Bass Pro Shop and Walmart. It's crazy. And yet this Power Prawn is even outselling that right now. And so it is crazy how effective it works. Luke, let's talk about the Power Prawn Senior, which is the big boy, the 4.5 inch. And then
so the original one, the Senior, which is called the original, is 4.3 inches. And that's this guy right here. And this is this is my favorite for going after the bigger fish. It just weeds out the smaller, really just weeds out the smaller. And the other one is a Junior, and it's 3.5 inches, just so you can see the differences. This one probably looks a little bit bigger because it's rigged on a jig head, but both are the same, same sleek design. It's really a darting type lure that actually looks like a shrimp. It has the eyes on there, has the tail, all proportional, even has the little ridges. You can kind of look closely and see the ridges in it. For shallow water, like for skipping under docks and mangroves, this bigger one, rigged on a Haas Helix hook, is absolutely amazing. By far my favorite lure for that type of fishing. It just consistently catches fish. Most importantly, it consistently gets the bigger fish. And one unique thing about this type of lure is that it's designed for the weighted hooks, right? It has the underbelly slot for the weighted hooks, so it fits great there. And this hook in particular is what it was designed for. And we also put together some jig heads. These are the football jig heads, and they now go to an ounce. This is the ouncer. And so you can now go off to reefs, to deeper channels. Like this ounce one will go up to, I would say, up to 80 to even 100 feet as long as there's not a lot of current. I just posted a report from down in Marco. We were in 45 feet of water, and I caught multiple keeper red grouper, caught a cobia, giant cuda. I ended up catching 10 species on this one lure. In that case, I had the same jig head, but at the 3/4 ounce. So long story short, just unique the fact that you can have one lure and cover anywhere from 8 inches to 80 plus feet, as long as you have the right rigging stuff. And this football shape jig head is what I found to be the best, because it, first of all, it kind of keeps it keeled. So we used to use a round ball jig head, And then I started testing this out, and my strike ratio went up. And I think what happens, first of all, it just looks good in the water. But the fact that it's keeled, when it hits the bottom, if there's current, if it's round, the current is going to turn it over on its side, and it doesn't look natural. Right, natural shrimp, when it hits the bottom, it stays upright. And so this football shaped jig head, I believe that's why the results seem to be better. So now we have these football jig heads in all sizes. Just so, again, you can cover the shallow water, and then down to the deep stuff as well.
And when we went fishing here recently with those big snook, I had just a normal Z-Man, a 1/4 ounce jig head on the power prawn. Luke was using the football and was getting more fish. I had a couple of there's little junk fish. He was getting grouper, got that big 39-inch snook. And so I was like, and I ended up getting broken off. A Spanish mackerel hit mine. So I was like, all right, I gotta re-rig. And then I went with the football style. And I think it was the second cast, ended up getting that big overslot snook. And then just shortly after that, like another dock down, get another one. It was crazy, all from that football. So I am certainly a believer. And I know for sure that's what we were using on some of the offshore trips. And that's what I love about that lure. You can use it in 2 feet of water, going after tailing redfish. I mean, that's what Justin, some of the coaches have done. He put a little Dr. Juice saltwater slamson on there and used that Haas Helix, the weedless version. And you're catching fish in 2 feet of water to 70 feet of water. Crazy how effective this sucker is. And that's why and we've been with guides like Hollywood Johnson, his company is called Florida Keys Fun Fishing. They have 5 boats in the fleet, and really their bread and butter is family, meaning they're not going out there. They do on occasion, but their main customer is not someone who's coming down to the Keys to fly fish for tarpon. They're really just trying to get families to go out there, have fun, create some memories. And so you can imagine how many shrimp they go through, because that is their deal. And we've taken a bunch of these power prawns down to him, and he's buying more and more and more of them. He's like, this is actually saving me money. He's like, I can still put some sin on that and drop those down in the same areas that I was dropping 15, 20 shrimp just to get a fish on, because they were getting annihilated. And I can catch some decent size, like keeper, mangrove, snapper, and even grouper. And man, I'm using the same shrimp, the whole day. In some cases, they do last a long time, especially if you're just dropping them, straight down and not skipping them or ripping them through mangroves and stuff like that. But it's amazing. And so even guides are starting to get on this power prawn phase, if you will. And so cool. I was blown away when I heard from him say, man, this could be game changing for my guide business in terms of saving me money over live shrimp, just because they go through so many. And you mentioned casting, right? If there are times when you're casting, sure, you can cast live shrimp, but that just increases the chance that it's going to fly off. And a lot of times you don't have enough weight, and so you can't cast very far. Whereas this thing, I mean, you put a 1/4 ounce jig head, you can cast it a country mile, and it skips well. Because you can skip underneath docks where it's really tough to skip a live shrimp underneath the dock, or it's a whole lot tougher. There's so many advantages.
Yeah, and just shrimp in general. For many years, I was, and I still do use a lot of paddle tails, and I'll talk about at the end, when to use a shrimp versus a paddle tail. At least my decision factor. But I would rarely use shrimp lures, and since I started, I have absolutely seen an increase in the average fish size, the increase in the amount of overslot snook and overslot redfish I've been catching with them, and it just seems like the bigger fish, in most cases, get a little bit more turned off with a lot of vibration, especially if you're fishing like moderately clear to clear water. And so in that situation, just a lure that looks realistic, that has some good darting motion without a whole lot of vibration, has the advantage. At least that's what I've seen so far. And just seeing reports from members who are catching their personal best, it's becoming with this lure. And again, in so many cases. And so if you're not using shrimp lures, I recommend giving them a try. First of all, they work great, but most importantly is they specifically are good for catching the bigger fish in many cases. Yes, these are awesome. I'd be lying if I said this was the only good shrimp lure. This is just the best that I've found so far. We did a lot of testing, a lot of thought went into the design of it. We again purposely made it sleek so that it has a better gliding motion, and then also skips better. So this is the best skipping and gliding shrimp lure that I've ever seen. And again, that's the reason why I've just personally been been catching more fish per trip, like really more fish per hour of fishing using this shrimp lure than any other lure that I've used. Whether I'm fishing the shallows, I did a test on the DOA shrimp versus the Power Prawn Junior. And so because they're the same size, they're exactly 3.5 inches, similar color, similar size, keeping under mangroves. And the Junior just flat out had the advantage because I could rig it weedless, right? And most of the strikes with the DOAs, yes, the DOA was catching fish every trip, but pretty much all the strikes happen on the drop. Like it looked good during the drop. It has all the little appendages, looks good on the drop, but it doesn't dart very well. And so in many cases, I seem to have most of my sight fishing chances when I had the rod with the DOA shrimp. I was doing 3 cast one, 3 cast the other, and just kept doing that for multiple trips. And I had a lot of sight fishing opportunities with the DOA. And so when I would cast over the fish and retrieve it towards it, I spooked almost all of them. Actually, I did spook all of them. And so, and I had one shot in the last trip with the Power Prawn Junior, and I cast over it, retrieve it towards, and it came up and smacked it. So, long story short, just the ability to cover water where you don't have to have the current take it. This can actually be retrieved fairly quickly. It works good slow, but also can work fast. So just long story short, just the most versatile shrimp lure that I've seen so far.
Yep. And most of those DOAs and the what's the other one that starts with the V? I'm blanking on it right now. Voodoo. I mean, a lot of these shrimp, they come pre-rigged with, one jig head. I know you talked about it, but that I don't think people realize, like, you're now stuck fishing one type of column of water for the most part, if you really want to do it effectively. Whereas this, I mean, that's why we have these football jig heads and how many sizes now?
Eighth, quarter, half, 3/4, an ounce, and we're gonna be adding to it. But more, yep. Now you can really segment exactly what depth you want. And we obviously have a chart for the depth range that each size is best for. So we have all that, and we even have an entire course on how to rig everything, when to use it, when not to use it. Just as importantly, just so that you can maximize your time in the water. We're not going to be here and try to claim that this is the best lure in 100% of situations. That would, if anybody says that, run away quickly. Yep. But there are many situations where it is the best, and so just, again, highly recommend at least having it in the arsenal. That's a big regret that I have for many years. I literally did not use shrimp lures for many years, and now I'm kicking myself.
Yep. And so you can find these at fishstrong.com. And of course, our insider members save 20% off that and the Haas Helix hooks. And really, we have little bundles for it. And we've listened to you as well. We started off with the natural color, and then we added Slam Shady. Now we have a few more colors that we just added to the Power Prawn arsenal. And a question that comes up a lot is, hey, are you guys going to be able to get like a Chartreuse Tail? A lot of our Texas and Louisiana members are asking for that. And the answer is yes. We're working on that as we speak. It'll be this year. Everything's taking still longer than we would like. But and that's like a whole new mold. Just so you know, it's not as simple as just snapping your fingers and having Chartreuse Tail on there. So it is a whole separate mold, because as we're injecting these things with colors, you almost have to have like different cavities for each little part. And so we'll have all that. So a whole lot more colors coming now that we know this thing absolutely works. And the color, I don't know how much of a difference it makes, personally on the shrimp. That one day that we went out, Luke and I both caught monster snook, and Luke was using the Slam Shady color and I was using the natural color, and we both caught fish all day long. And so I would say get both, because there are some times where you do want to have different colors. I saw one of our members just sent me a report here today about a study for I believe it was muskie. Did you see that, Luke?
I didn't see that.
Lure colors for muskie. And guess what was number one for any type of clear or even remotely clear water?
Thinking white. And if you could have it said like a little gold in there. I mean, that was like the next level. And then I went all the way to like black for like really, really crazy stained, dirty water. But it was basically white or black or some type of gold, maybe pink, depending on some of their level. I'll forward you over the little study, but thought that was interesting. But white, and that's the reason why that Slam Shady continues to sell, continues to just keep working. It just flat out gets the job done, and science even proves it. Yeah, I was going to say, for those who don't know what Slam Shady color is, it's basically a white background with both silver and gold flash, like little small specks of flash So that way it has been the most well-rounded color that I've used. For shrimp lures though, this is my go-to. For the shrimp in particular, I like the natural, but if I'm using the paddle tails, it's always slam shade. I don't cheat on it. That's literally all I've used for the last 2 years, and it's been amazing. So to the decision point, we'll talk about the two main decision points that we've brought up in this. Number one, live shrimp versus artificial shrimp. So live shrimp is best if you're going after sheep's head, if you're going after the kind of smaller snapper, and if you just want to go out and just catch, like have a kid out fishing and get them on as many fish as possible with the least amount of effort, live shrimp or even frozen shrimp, just sitting on the bottom near structure, like near dock pilings, near bridge pilings, near kind of oysters or rocks, that's going to catch stuff. And you can use small chunks of it and little small hooks, and that's going to significantly increase how many fish you catch, because again, those little small stuff, they're usually going to be on it in 20 seconds, plus or minus. Yeah. So you can catch a ton of them. However, if you're targeting redfish, sea trout, snook, flounder, and you don't want to really mess with the I would say the small stuff, that's when the lures come into play, right? And the bigger the target fish, the bigger lures. So this big one is what I use when I'm going after redfish and snook and trout as well. I really prefer not to mess with the smaller ones. So this bigger one will just weed out the smallers. This junior is what I love for like triple tail and even dogfish. And I've been getting a surprisingly large amount of sheep's head. I still would not call this a sheep's head lure. I like the crabs better for sheep's head, but this will catch a lot of the snapper. Triple tail, absolutely love it, as I mentioned. And this has just been good just to help increase the quantity of fish. Whereas again, the bigger one will just flat out be the one to weed out the most small fish. So as Joe mentioned, it's good to have a little bit of everything. Sometimes, especially in the summer, a lot of the shrimp are smaller, and so that's when it is good to have a smaller profile as well. But I've really been rocking the bigger one in all seasons, in all months, and it's worked. The small one is usually, again, when I'm just really trying to make sure that if I'm having a tough day and I need a guaranteed strike, I put that small one and bounce it near some dock pilings, and something's going to eat it.
Yep. And you'll find that you'll actually save money per big fish caught using a power prawn over live shrimp. I mean, if you really look at it, same with live bait, on how many actual bait fish or shrimp you have to go through to get like a keeper or an overslot fish. I mean, it can get crazy expensive, and that's not including the rigs lost and all that stuff. And whereas we go out and you might get fewer fish caught for sure, compared to just dropping a live shrimp down a dock piling. But man, we are catching big fish, and we're usually using the same lure for many big fish, which is really, really cool. So like I said, we have some bundles there as well for you that like to save even more money, kind of get everything. I mean, the Jig Heads, and definitely get some of the Dr. Juice saltwater slams. And that's another one. We've done multiple podcasts on it, so we don't have to belabor it, but that stuff flat out works. You drip a little bit there on both the shrimp and even the top of the leader line right there, or even the Jig Head. Man, it flat out works. And I mean, we have definitely seen our fish catching go up ever since that, we started using that stuff. So power prawn, little Dr. Juice saltwater slam, and the Hoss hooks. And then what are the football jigs? We have them in as of right now. And
Hoss footballs are in. Those are the ones that'll let you get fish the lures deep. That's again the best lure I found so far with it. And then it's the Hoss Helix hooks are the shallow ones that where you can rig it weedless. But again, as I mentioned, last decision point that I wanted to cover before we're done. And so shrimp lure versus paddle tail, when to use one versus the other. So in my opinion, if the water is at least moderately clear to clear, it's shrimp lure. That's the default. And then if I'm actually seeing fish down there and they're not striking it, then I'll go over to the paddle tail. In most cases, when it's clear, the shrimp lure is what's going to get them to strike. Like when Marco's going off, he's getting a lot of his on the reefs. The water is usually at least moderately clear. I've been doing the dock fishings around St. Pete and even down the Keys. The shrimp lure profiles have been it by far the best. But then if the water is murky, right? If there's been a lot of silt in the water, a lot of rain, or fishing zones with just a lot more just murky water, then the paddle tails, right? Those paddle tails have a little bit more vibration. I do have some here. This big old paddle tail, this tail will be kicking off a lot of vibration as it's going through the water, and that's going to help the fish find it. And so if the water's clear, though, those fish can see it perfectly well. And too much vibration is just unnatural and very clear, especially if it's clear and calm. So clear and or calm shrimp, if it's churned up or murky, paddle tail. That's been my, just to keep it as simple as possible. That's what I go with.
It's good. And that's why we keep all the above in our tackle bag. And you should too. Go over to fishstrong.com, pick up yours. And of course, if you're an insider member, make sure you're all logged in and get your discounts. And if you're not, what the heck are you waiting on? Now, not only do we have the discounts, we have the on the water fishing reports, and literally new ones going up every single day. And we also have the smart fishing spots. That's that new software and app that goes in your phone, tablet, laptop, etc., and is changing the way that we do our pre-trip planning to find the fishing spots, the best ones in your area. It's basically giving you the 90-10 zone. And just like anything, like Luke said earlier, it's never just going to work 100% of the time, or it would almost be too easy. But doggone, I want every possible shortcut there is. This is a massive shortcut to help you at least start eliminating the areas you know you shouldn't fish and start telling you, all right, here's the best areas that I should be targeting for this specific day, the specific tide, the specific wind direction, etc. It just takes so much of the guesswork out and eliminates so much having to drive around. It should be saving you a ton of money on gas and certainly just more tight lines, per hour of fishing, which is the ultimate goal. So that's all part of the Insider Club now with, I don't know how many, 34,000 members strong. It's exploded here the past 30 days with the smart fishing spots. So just one more reason to join. And of course, if you're not thrilled for any reason, if you don't think it's an amazing investment, we'll give you your money back anytime in the first year. So we've made it a complete no-brainer, irresistible offer to join us in the Insider Club.
Yeah, just wish everybody stood behind their product for an entire year guarantee. Make sure that we fulfill the promises. Catch more fish and save money on your tackle. If somehow you don't think the club helped you do both, get full refund. Simple as that.
That's it. Let's go over to saltstrong.com to join there. And then fishstrong.com is the online tackle store. So guys, appreciate you. If you have any questions, make sure to leave a comment in the blog post. That's the actual article, if you will, on saltstrong.com. We look at all those. They come to us versus YouTube. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. But if you definitely want to make sure your comment gets into our inbox, go to saltstrong.com in the fishing tips section. That's where this blog post will be. You might already be watching it there. And at the bottom, you'll see an area to leave a comment. And that literally goes right to us. So we get to see all those. So let us know if you've had any luck with the power prawn or live shrimp, etc. If you have any questions on rigging, etc., we have videos for all of that. So just let us know, and we'd be glad to point you in the right direction.
Yep.
Otherwise, talk to you in the next episode. Peace.
See ya.
'Cause fishing, it's in my soul.